Hello, so in this video we'll talk about the third question of the midterm exam. So our group is constituted of Yu-Wen, Hsiao and Cabanac. And first I will recall what is the purpose of the third question. So the third question is divided in two parts. We have a server and a client. The server will run a database that will store all the information from two files, student data and teacher data. And the client will be used to do a request. So we will request a type and an ID, and the server will send him back the correct information of the person, and so the client will display it. So first we will see the client, what is composed, what is the client about. So the client have only two objects. So the first is search engine that will where we will have our main method, and a communication object that will be here to manage the communication with the server. So we'll see first the communication object. So the communication object have three variables. So the socket that will be used to store socket, a buffer reader that will be used to read what the server sends us, and the buffer writer that will be used to write things in the buffer for the server. So first, when we create our communication object, we take an IP and a port to know where we need to send our packet. So we create a socket that will take the IP and the port. Then we display that we are connected to the server, and we recall the IP and the port to be sure that the connection is effective. And we'll create our buffer based on the socket. So basically this. So we set up our communication object. Then we'll have the first method that will be used to know if we are still connected. So we'll call the socket method that is connected, and we'll return a boolean simply. The second method is about getting response. So we'll just return a string of what there is in the buffer reader. We just read a line. And if we have a problem, we'll return an error while receiving the response from the server. And the final method is to send a request. So basically, it will take a type and an ID in a string, and we'll write in the buffer writer the request we want to send to the server. So the format of the request is type, comma, and ID, and the \n in order to finish the line. And then we will flush the buffer writer to send directly the request to the server. If we have a problem, we will just return 84. So that's what our communication object is made for. So basically, just create a connection, know if we are still connected, get a response, and send a request. So in our search engine, we'll first create the object. So create a scanner input that will scan what there is in the system in flow in order to get what the user is typing. And we create our communication object that will, so we give him the port of all localhost, since we are running on localhost, and the port on which the server will be running. So while the client is connected, we'll ask the user to enter a type. So one for student and two for teacher. We'll get the input, and we'll store it in type. And then we will ask for the ID of the person that we'll store in ID. And we just simply send the request to the server using type and ID. And so our communication object will do the rest. And after, we just get the information from get response of the communication object, and we'll just display it. Okay. And we make two \n in order to make it more readable for the user. So now we'll see what the server is about. So in the server, we have 6 objects, 6 classes, and I will go through it. So first, we have the class that we have since the beginning of the midterm exam. So the people, that is the abstract class for the student and the teacher. So we have the name, the ID, as usual. ID is the int. And we have the get information, the get SQL method, and the get information in order to get ID, that in order to get the ID of the person. So the student object is the same as the one from the previous question. So major, the GPA, that's the float. We create it by sending all the information that we want to create our object. And since they are string, we just change them in order to fit the requirements of the object. So for example, we get a float from the string in order to store our GPA. After get the information, it is just getting a string that regroup all the variables from the object, all the attributes of the object. And get SQL is just to get the SQL query in order to update the database. So first we change the GPA in a string back, and we return the string insert into student record, so the table. We indicate the name of the column, so ID, name, major, and GPA, and we give the values from our object, so ID, name, major, and STR GPA that we just create. So for the teacher, it's the same. So I will go through it rapidly. So we have department, number of course. Same construction as the student. We give all the information to store in the attributes. And getting the information regroups all the attributes into one string. And for the query is the same. For the SQL, we just return the string, the SQL string to update the database using the attribute of the object. Now we'll see our communication object. So here for the server is a bit more complicated, but not that much. So we have a server socket, a socket that will manage the communication with the client specifically, our buffer reader and our buffer writer to read and write information for the client, from and for the client. So when we create our object communication, we just take a port in order to run the server on a specific port. We create the server socket using the port, and we indicate that the server is active. Then we will accept connection from the server socket, and the accept connection will be stored in our socket. And based on the socket that is created from the client that just connected, we'll create our buffer reader and our buffer writer using the stream from the socket. And we'll just indicate that the client, which is address, is connected. So that's how we create our communication object. Then we'll have, as for the client, we'll have a method that will indicate if the client is still connected. So we use the socket of the client, and the method is connected to return a boolean. So true if it's still connected and false if it's not connected. Then we will use the get input method that will return an array of string, and will be used to guess the input that the client sends us. So since I remember you that the client will send a type and an ID, so this method will be here to encapsulate the reception and to put into in an array of string all the information we get from the client. So it will be easier for the main function to run it, to process it. So first we create a string that is the client message that we'll get from the buffer reader. So basically in the client message we'll have the string that send the client, and we'll use our client input to store the two different message from the client request. So, and we will split using the comma. So basically in the client input we'll have first the type and second the ID. We'll to recall it, we'll write in the standard output what we get. So the client with his address send us, so we put the message that we get, and we'll write it more easily for the user. So type equal to the client input, and the ID equal to the client input 1. And basically it's all. And we return the client input so we can use it in our main method. And so if things go not well, we'll just return nil. Okay, and so the last method is about sending output to the client in order to reply. So we'll take our reply, and so we'll just basically write in the buffer write the reply and flush it in order to send it directly. And so we'll just write in the sender output what we send. So send to the client, we'll recall his address and just the reply. And basically that's all. And again, if we have a problem, it will return 84 instead of 0. So that's all for communication object. And moreover, we will have an object to encapsulate the communication with the database. So as we saw in the second question, we have the same type of object. So here we have 3 attributes. The first one to create the connection. The second one to create the statement, to store the statement, and the third one to store the element. So we initialize the database the same way as the second question. We just create a connection to the database using his ID and the password. We create a statement from the connections object. And that's all. Then we have a method to realize update request on the database. So we just take the request in a parameter, and we will use the execute update method from the statement object, giving it the request, and we return an ID depends on the status of the method. We have a second method to realize the query this time. So we take the request again, and we will return the result as a string. So we create the result set that will take the result of the statement execute query method that will take the request, so basic. We'll print out the request that we get, and we will pass through the result set, and for every result that we get, we will return the string format. We will return a string like a composed of all the information we get from the database. And so since the objects, the two objects, student and teacher, have 4 columns, so we'll have 4 values. So we return the 4 values from the result set. If we don't find the result, we'll just return the no result. And if there is an error, we'll return the error. So that's all for the query. And now as for the second question, we have a final method that will be used to dump information from the file to the database. So we take a file, we take a type, and we'll create a scanner that will pass through the file. While there is a line in the file, so for every line, we'll first see what is the type. So if it's the student, we will create a student object. If it's the teacher, we'll create a teacher object. All the time using the 4 information that we get in the line from the file. We display the SQL query that we will do, so based on the elements we created. And after, we'll just ask the database to update the database by inserting the elements. And so for this, we use the query, the SQL query of the elements. Okay, and so as the same way, we do error management. So If everything goes well, we return 0, and if there is problem, we return 84. Okay, so we get through all our objects. Now we'll see what is the main method of the server. So yeah, we just create the object. So first we create a database. We then put the information, store the information into the database. So we use the method dump with the file first student dot. We indicate that it's composed of student object. Then we do the same thing for the teacher. So teacher dot and the teacher type. Then we create our communication. So basically we create the server instance and we're using the port 9001. So now that we have everything set, we'll just search for an ID and a type. So we check that we are still connected to the client, at least that the client is still connected to us. We'll create a reply string, and so first, the first thing to do is to get the input from the client's request. So we just store it in the array, string array, and so we let the communication object manage it. We just get what the information should really need. So then if our inputs are null, so it means that there was a problem in the communication, we just reply error at reception of the format. Like you need to check the format of this request. If we get so our input 0 equals to 1, so that's the type. So it means that it's a student. We will reply using student details and the string. And so the string will be just the query to the database using select from so select all the information from the student record table, where ID is equal to the inputs 1. So it's the ID that the client sends us. And so this will compose our reply. Then, as the same way as the student, we do the same for the teacher. So if it's equals to 2, we write student details and the query from the database, the result of the query from the database, using this time the teacher record table, where the ID is equal to the ID that the client sends us, obviously. And if the type is different from 1 and 2, we just reply that the ID that is sent is a wrong type. The type that is sent is a wrong type. And at the end, we just use the object, the communication object, to send the reply to the client. Okay, so we get through all the code. Now we'll make it run to see what it's all about. So first we run the server. So you can see that all the information from the file are jumped in the database. So we use all the queries. And the server is now active. So now we'll run the search engine, so the client. So we'll get one view on the server. Okay, so we have one view on the client. So here is the server and here is the client. So we can see that the server indicates that the client is connected, and we can see that the client says too that we are connected to the server. So everything is fine for now. So we just try to do our first request. Oh. Wait, sorry. Okay. So we enter 1 to say that we want a student, and we will write the ID of David. So 1, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The same isn't move. So we see that the client sends us 1, 4, 5, 6. So the type and the ID. And so we create the query. So from student record, and where the ID is equal to what we send. And so we respond to the client, student details, all the information. And so we can see that here we really received the good information. Now we'll try with the teacher, which send 2. and we'll try with both, for example, so 9201. And so here we can see that we get the good information. And so here, as the same way as before, we detail all the steps and send the good information. Now we'll try with the wrong ID. So if I type 5 and I type no matter which ID, we can see that we received the good things. And here we didn't even do the request. We just directly said that it's a wrong ID, and we received the good reply. And now we'll try with, for example, with a student ID, but we'll try with a teacher, with a student type, but with a teacher ID. So here we'll try with my 324. That is nice. 24. And so we can see that the student details are not, there is no result found in it, since the teacher is not in the good table. The teacher is not in the student table. So that's all. So that's how we get the client in a server, where we have the database on the server and the client that do request. Thanks for your attention, and see you soon.